I'm Cora from Wales, and he's my brother Gavin. Say hi. And I'm the baby roundabout. So I'm with Grandpa and Gavin on the baby seesaw with my bike. And I also have my helmet on. So you have it now.
Thank you. Thank you, Cora, for that wonderful introduction. My name's Di Richards, and I'm standing as a councillor for the Glynneath Town Council underneath the Talbot County Borough Council.
I've recently made this video about why the council tax is so high in Glynneath. Most of us are tightening our belts with the rising cost of everything, including heating. More than ever, we need to look after our money, and I believe we should vote for people who will do just that.
One of the questions I often hear asked is, why is your council tax so high in Glynneath, yet the service you receive so poor? The answer to that question is extremely complicated, but simple to understand. The reason your council tax is so high is because of
an accumulation of negative value incidents or events that divert your financial contribution to the council away from the intended service they are meant to provide. I'll show you one such example from the most recent Glynneath Town Council meeting.
Thank you very much. Item number 14 is agreement to allow Councillor Simon Knoyle and Councillor Shane McMahon to have delegated powers to appoint a survey in practice to undertake a topographical survey of the Welfare Park to a limit of £500. This one has already been superseded because I've already had a quote in for the works of £1,100. So my limit of £500 has been blown out of the water. The reason for having a topographical survey is that it'll be a measured survey, and it will enable us to be able to better suit and fit into the park, the playground and the sports fields. Within the playing field, within the playing area, the playground area, to work out where is best suited to put the new proposed playground equipment. So it is quite a sizable chunk of money, £1,100, but it is something that is needed and desperately needed so that we can design the next phase of what the transformation project looks like. Comments, Jeremy, please?
Yeah, two things. It's going to have to be spent for all sorts of technical reasons, and there I'd say legal reasons for when any boundary is put down and laid down. So it's going to have to be spent. And I don't want to see 6 months down the road, a councillor, someone from the Town Council Enforcement Office come up and say, you can't play games there on a Saturday afternoon because there's too many complaints.
But this will give us, it'll be a measured survey, so we'll be able to work from that. So in terms of the Football Association of Wales, FAW, they'll be able, Shane and the football club will be able to tell us what the correct size for a pitch is. We'll do the same with the Welsh Rugby Union to get the correct size of a rugby pitch, which can be. So my suggestion of allowing us to have powers to go up to £500 to engage with a survey in practice, I feel this now needs to be £1,100. The company is based in Heol y Glyn, and they're a local company, a respected and well-renowned land surveying company. Again, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this or not, but if I could increase that from a limit of £500 to £1,100, if members would be happy to push that through this evening and allow us to engage with those. Again, I can ask Kerry and Geraint tomorrow to make contact with them and get those works undertaken. Does anybody have any further comments on that?
If it's
Shane?
Yeah, I would just say I would agree with what you're proposing, really, but I would would do it on the basis that you follow it up by getting confirmed that it is lawful as such, you know, within the financial regulations, obviously to increase the amount up to that amount. And the other one I would just find out as well, do we need three votes then, you know, before you can select which one really? So subject to that, then I would agree then.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll make contact with Geraint and Kerry and tomorrow and ask them for their opinion on that. Geraint will be able to do that.
Just one more, sorry Simon. Another one was just which budget was it going to come from as well. So Parks and Open Spaces budget, I would be thinking maybe, I know there's a lot of money that was aimed at maintenance of the Bowls Green, which I know that work isn't going to take place now from what I can gather. So perhaps that would be, you know, could be wired across then to pay for it.
Yeah, I had a look at the budgets earlier on in the what we'd agreed back in January. There's a maintenance allowance within the Parks and Open Spaces as well, so that probably where it would come out of, I imagine, for next year. Jerry?
Oh, I go along with that, Simon, as long as Shane said, all above board, legal and okay to do.
Okay, well, I'll second that.
What you don't see in this video is you don't see anyone fighting for your money. You don't see anybody trying to argue the case. They just rubber stamping £600 out of the window. Gone.
And
I just think because you've got £500 in there, you might just have to clarify that to increase it. But otherwise, I'm happy to support that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the last item is item number 15 is to.
So you've just witnessed a negative value event. At least £600 is being diverted into the coffers of a local private company without going through a competitive tender process, which I believe all council tenders need to do. If you refer back to Councillor Shane McMenamin's comment, do we need 3 quotes?
And the other one I would just find out as well, do we need three votes then, you know, before you can select which one really?
That's a small percentage of your money gone. Say 20p each council taxpayer if you live in Glynneath. Let's multiply that 20p by the thousands of other negative value events and incidents that happen across the borough, some smaller than 20p, some larger, and that's the accumulation process. All those incidents and events add up to a substantial amount, and that's where your council tax goes. It doesn't go towards providing a quality service for you. Quite simply, it's the mismanagement of your money through incompetence, corruption, negligence, poor workmanship and misguided policies. If you vote for me in the election as your county borough councillor, I'll make a start on reducing negative value incidents and events that will make Glynneath a better place to live in and will provide you with more value for your council tax.
Thanks for Grandpa.
Hiya, my name's Richard, and on the 5th of May 2022 I'm standing in the election to become a councillor in the Glynneath Town Council and the Neath Talbot County Borough Council. You might be asking yourself what I'm doing in the middle of Neath and I'm standing as a councillor in Glynneath. It's because 100 years ago today, on the release of this video, my dad was born in this very spot. He was born here, in the centre of Neath, in number 18 Zoa Row, which was located between here and that building there, which is the Zoa Chapel. This is where my grandparents were married, in the Zoa Chapel. There's some lovely features there. And still got the original timber.
As you walk into my house, the first thing you see is a memorial to my dad and my mum. They both fought in the war, so I focus on this part of their lives. My dad worked his whole life to support his family so that they could have a better life. And I, for one, appreciate the support and the love he showed for his children. This is how I honour my parents.
So I'm with Councillor, former ex-councillor Jennifer Herbert, who's just finished her term on the Glynneath Town Council, and we're at the War Memorial at the Miners Welfare Park in Glynneath, but there's nothing here to remember them. Suggest it's a Miners Welfare Park. No. How can we best honour the miners of Glynneath? Yeah.
Well, there's nothing here to suggest that it's a miners' welfare park, is there? We haven't got a miners' memorial, number one.
Yeah.
You know, there's if you ask, especially children today, if you ask them what park this is, they won't say it's a miners' welfare park.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe they'll know anything about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing here to suggest it is.
So the miners pay their dues, and this is where their dues went for the welfare and the welfare park.
Of course it is. And they worked hard, but they managed to make sure that, I think it was a penny out of their wages, I believe.
So basically they paid for this park? Yeah?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Of course they did.
Not only with money, but also with their sweat and their toil and their lives in some cases.
Yeah, and their lives.
Yeah.
And the fallen miners in Glynneath is astronomical. The amount of people that lost their lives, well, all over this valley, really. There's no records, there's nothing to remember them by. Of course, we should have a memorial for them. And that's one good way, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So you believe we should honour the miners in a better way?
Oh, 100%, I do. Yeah. Because we are a mining community, whether some people like it or not, this is what we are.
Yeah.
As I've previously stated, I'm standing for election on May the 5th, and this is a video I made back in July of last year when I fought a by-election in the central ward of Glynneath. Not a lot has changed in my life since then, so if you want to know more about me, please watch the rest of this video. Thank you.
Hiya, my name's Di Richards, and this Thursday I'm standing in the Glynneath Town Council by-election. This is what I look like. Today I'm clean shaven for effect. This is what I look like normally with 2 to 10 days stubble.
This is what I love. I love the mountains, swimming in the lakes at sunrise, and walking the waterfalls in flood. I love to be part of nature, to be at one with this amazing planet, and I want to enjoy my remaining days left on this earth. I'm 61 years old, and apart from living 5 years in Swansea, I've lived all my life in Neath Talbot, and the last 14 years in Bryn Hyfryd, Glynneath. My family hail from Neath, and in 1991, all 4 sets of my great-grandparents lived near the Neath town centre. These are my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, Thomas and Elizabeth Snow. Thomas Snow is credited with building Victoria Gardens in the Neath town centre. I'm best known for my prowess as a sportsman. I've represented Wales at cyclocross, triathlon, mountain running, marathon kayaking, duathlon, which is combined running and cycling, and mountain biking. This is me in red top and pink shorts, riding for Wales in the 1996 Mountain Bike Tour of Britain, where I finished the leading rider in the Welsh team. I rode 6 years as a sponsored rider for the Schmooze mountain bike team, travelling the length and breadth of Britain to race against professional teams such as Raleigh, Marin and Peugeot, with the occasional magazine photo shoot included. During this period of my life, I also worked as a physical training instructor with the Territorial Army, winning the major British military mountain running competition, the Welsh 1,000 metre peaks race, twice in succession, running from the sea near Bangor to the top of Snowdon via the 4 highest peaks in Wales. And I won the Territorial Army Triathlon Championships for the first 4 years of its existence. I also spent time perfecting other military skills. In 2000, near Prague in the Czech Republic, I won the veteran over 40 title in the World Quadrathlon Championships, combining kayaking with the 3 triathlon sports. And in 2009, Inside Sport magazine named me Wales' fittest man. I was 16 years past my best by that time, and I retired to focus on developing sport locally so that my children could enjoy a healthy lifestyle. I live with my wife Heol, and we have 4 children, 3 of whom have represented Wales and or Great Britain: Simon and Dale at orienteering, Dale at cyclocross, Victoria represented Wales and Great Britain at slalom kayak, and in 2017 Victoria was a member of the Great Britain women's team that won a gold medal in the slalom discipline at the World Whitewater Rafting Championships in Japan. So we have another world champion in the family. She's pictured in the front left of the raft. 2 of my children are respected scientists. They both have a PhD in chemistry. Dr. Simon contributed a chapter to the Royal Society of Chemistry periodical Organometallic Chemistry in 2020, and Dr. Victoria is the chief editor of the chemistry journal Nature Chemistry Communications. I worked at Glynneath College managing the first college triathlon academy in Britain, and to support the academy I built a feeder system for junior triathletes. In 2005, 75% of Wales age group champions were from the academy feeder system. At the same time, I was chairman of Wales's largest and most successful club of that period, based in Neath, Multisport Racing Club. I work occasionally as a sports coach, and my day job is running the world's leading supplier of rugby memorabilia, Rugby Relics. This is a company I started from a shoebox of spare rugby programmes 43 years ago, back in 1978. We sell all kinds of rugby memorabilia and have an online museum of memorabilia. We exhibited our collection of artefacts in the 125th and 130th Welsh Rugby Union anniversary exhibitions. I've also written a book on the origin of sport, which explains the birth of rugby union. For fun, I work as an extra in television and movie productions, including Casualty, Sherlock, and the locally filmed Pride, where I was featured in the first scene filmed. If you have the DVD, I'm the first person you see when you put it on. I appear to the right of Bill Nye in this promo photo. This is my family, my wife Heol and I, and our direct descendants. Together with their partners, we are 13 in total. We moved to Glynneath in 2007, and up until 2016, with the occasional hiccup, I kept myself to myself, and I enjoyed living in Glynneath until the Cuddy Group started building a mountain of Aberfan proportions behind our homes. In 2020, my research into the planning process relating to the Heol y Glyn development has identified malpractice in the Glynneath Talbot Council Planning Department that has led to contamination being ignored on the site as opposed to being treated and cleaned up or removed in line with the Council's contaminated land strategy and UK government law. The Council have in effect failed to safeguard the health of the residents surrounding the site. Early on in the planning process, residents from 20 properties asked me to represent them in objecting against the format of the Heol y Glyn development. I've supported these residents since then. Firstly, thank you for allowing me to speak. I've spent the last 3 days trying to get my representation down to under 5 minutes and found it impossible. My document is 4 pages long and represents the summary of the combined knowledge of around 30 council tax paying residents of Glynneath, most of whom have lived next to the tip for the majority of their lives. I call it the tip because that's what it is, and that's what it has always been. A landfill site, a rubbish tip. The planning department get 52 pages to support a developer who has history of breaking the law, and here I refer to the 70 protected trees that Enzo Homes cut down in Penllygare. The judge who imposed the fine on Enzo Homes stated that this was a deliberate and defiant act. Most of you will have received our report on how the planning department broke the 1990 Environmental Protection Act. In 2010, the planning committee rubber-stamped planning department malpractice, and that has placed the lives of Glynneath residents at risk, and this includes my children. The council does not like plain speaking and the truth, so they've blocked me from asking more questions relating to the development. This is why I need to become a councillor, so that I can ask these questions officially and not as a member of the public. Recently, I have discovered that 20% of properties in Bryn Hyfryd that have long-term occupancy and a physical border with the site have had a family member die of a rare neurodegenerative disorder in the last 5 years. This is 112 times above the national average, and some of these deaths can be linked to a similar example of industrial contamination in a northern French town. In a nutshell, what I am saying here is that Neath Talbot Council are potentially killing Glynneath residents to support their own historical corruption. I'll give you a second or two to digest this information. I would consider myself to have been reasonably successful in achieving my life's goals. This is not through being lucky or having the boxes ticked for me by someone else. It's through sheer hard work, attention to detail, and an aptitude for understanding the steps required to achieve those goals. If you've watched this video to this point, please understand that the video is not an advertisement for my arrogance. The video is a demonstration of a series of successful processes that I and my family have completed in a world that celebrates winners, not losers. Achieving success is a process, and the skills involved within that process are transferable and can be applied to solve community problems as well as to enhance community projects. The residents of Central Ward of Glynneath have the opportunity to have me working for you by voting for me this Thursday. Please vote for me this Thursday so that I can help this community achieve success. Please vote for me this Thursday to support the families of the Glynneath residents against contamination whose lives are being threatened by a corrupt council. Thank you. Hiya! You might have seen the first video in this series about the forthcoming Glynneath election that was introduced by my granddaughter Cora.
I'm Cora from Wales, and
we had our grandchildren for the first week of this election campaign, so we like to include them in the things that we do whenever possible. I believe it to be part of the learning process from a child to adult to be part of society. They watch and learn from older children and adults It's a form of learned behaviour known as observational learning. This is Cora finishing her introduction and me introducing myself in the Miners' Welfare Park one day.
You have it now.
Thank you, Cora, for that wonderful introduction. My name's Di Richards, and I'm standing as a councillor for the Glynneath Town Council and the Neath and Talbot County Borough Council.
And the next day, this is Cora in Pont Walby Play Park, and what you're about to see is completely unrehearsed.
Can I have the GoPro? Go. It's me again. My name is Di Richards, and I'm from Wales too. So you need to go home. Have you got a mom and a dad? Whoa, you're a mom and a dad? Yeah. Oh! Here we go, folks. Oh!
I never tire of that video, but I'm here to do a job. I'm here to tell you about safety in Glynneath. Seatbelts stop you going through the windscreen if you crash at speed.
Roofers use scaffolding to stop workers falling off roofs. Motorcyclists wear helmets to protect their heads if they crash, and zebra crossings are there to help you cross the road safely. Everywhere you go, you can see safety measures because it's an important part of life. Keeping yourself is important if you want to live a long life. Less safety means more deaths and injuries on our roads, building sites and in other places. These are all measures that we can see. We can see the seatbelts, the scaffolding, the helmets and the zebra crossings. But what are the dangers we can't see? Remember the COVID pandemic? We all had to wear masks when we were out and about. There were safety masks everywhere. You never saw COVID, but you knew it was there. You may have had COVID, but you didn't see it, did you? It was too small to see. There were laws made during COVID to prevent the spread of the disease. We all remember lockdown and the countrywide restrictions. And what about gas masks during war to prevent poisonous gas and chemicals from being inhaled? Gas attacks first happened in World War I in the Second Battle of Ypres in 1915. There were treaties made after World War I to prevent the use of poisonous gas during warfare. In 1928, the Geneva Protocol prohibited the use of poisonous gases in warfare. COVID and mustard gas are only two invisible killers. There are many. These are killers. Killers you can't see. They can and they will hurt you if you do not use safety precautions in their presence.
I'm at the Heol y Glyn landfill site in Glynneath that is marked by the council on their local development plan as suitable for housing.
There are planning approvals at Heol y Glyn that go as far back as 1990 that indicate houses can be built here, despite the fact that for the majority of the last 85 years it has been a tip, both a domestic and industrial landfill site. In 2008 and 2020, the site was chemically tested and contamination was found to be above the safety guidelines on both occasions. This information was submitted to the council through the developer's planning agent. There are laws to govern and prevent the spread of contamination. The 1990 Environmental Protection Act and the 1974 Control of Pollution Act are just two of these. When I found out that I was living next to a contaminated landfill site, I wanted to know more about chemical contamination. So when in doubt, I always ask my kids. I have two with chemistry PhDs, both respected scientists and working in the field of chemistry. I asked them their educated opinions and they both say that safety is of paramount importance when dealing with chemicals. Any chemist will tell you this, and they both say that not enough is known about how chemicals affect the human body for toxicologists to be sure about anything. I asked what the toxicologist was, and they pointed me in the direction of Google. Google is great for what is accepted as the norm, but for an overview that was steeped in history, I turned to the trusty Encyclopaedia Britannica for an accepted toxicology definition. Toxicology is the study of poisons and their effects, particularly on living systems. To be more specific about toxicology, I then went to Loomis Essentials of Toxicology, the accepted expert publication for a more exact definition and the specific branch of toxicology I needed, which is environmental toxicology. Is the branch of toxicology that deals with the incidental exposure to chemicals that appear basically as contaminants of air, food or water. Let's return to the Heol y Glyn landfill site and look at the most recent chemical test. This is the chemical test made on the 13th of October 2020. If we look at this most recent test at the tip, we will see that there are at least 6 different contaminants that have been identified at the site. They can be found in 17 locations which are marked in red on the chart as being above the safety guidelines. I'm only going to look at one of those on the list, the most well-known, lead. From this image we see that the lead on the site in one of the test locations is above the safety guidelines. The World Health Organization are the leading world governing authority for health issues. There is a lot of information in this image about lead poisoning, but what the World Health Organization do stipulate is that there is no exposure to lead that is known to be without harmful effects. In other words, lead in any dose, if ingested, will harm you. So the exact safety level for lead is 0. And what is clear from this information is that the people of Glynneath are more at risk of lead poisoning because of this, and lead is not the only contaminant. If we look at the other contaminants, we can see that the land has been found to be contaminated with 6 different chemicals, up to 9 times the safety guidelines. Residents bordering the site have known for years that there has been hazardous waste dumped at the site. This is a curious resident who lives overlooking the site who saw barrels on the site about to be buried in the spoil heap. He wanted to know what was in the barrels, so he went on site to physically check them. I asked him what was in the barrels. He said they were sealed, but when he kicked them,
onto the tip, give him a kick, I could feel it.
So you actually kicked the barrels, yeah?
They weren't empty,
Yeah.
They were full.
he is not the only resident who has seen what they consider to be illegal activity at the tip. The following government organisations have been supplied with the information about the barrels and the potential for toxic waste poisoning of the residents: Neath Talbot Borough Council and Natural Resources Wales. Natural Resources Wales say it's too expensive to excavate the spoil heap to investigate this report, while Neath Talbot Council Planning Department have given the go-ahead to excavate the spoil heap and move it closer to residents' properties in Bryn Hyfryd without testing it first for contamination, thereby removing the safety precautions. Excluding the removal of stockpiled material in this planning approval image means that toxic waste in the spoil heap will also be moved next to properties to fill in the stream. We see here a picture of the Cuddy Group in action at the site. If you can't see any houses being built, it's because they never built one during the entirety of their existence. In fact, there is no evidence of the Curry Group ever attempting to build anything that looks remotely like a house or the groundwork for a housing development such as a road or drainage system. What you are seeing here is the Curry Group moving around toxic waste so they can dump more toxic waste on land that they own without regulation. This is what the Curry Group did. They demolished industrial works and they removed chemical waste and asbestos from these locations to other unspecified places. They tipped for a period of several years at the Heol y Glyn landfill site. Moving toxic waste around releases dangerous chemicals into the atmosphere, such as carcinogens, mutagens and neurotoxins. I would suggest that this is the reason why, if you live in a property bordering the site, you are approximately 112 times more likely to die of a rare neurodegenerative brain disorder such as progressive supranuclear palsy, which affects only 1 in 100,000 people annually. The risk of this happening to you and your family if you live in another part of Glynneath, I would suggest decreases the further away you are from the tip, depending of course on which way the wind blows.
Only the Curry Group know what's buried in this tip. So ask yourself these questions.
Do you trust the Curry Group to have genuinely tipped clean soil? Do you trust the Welsh Government to do their job? Do you trust the Planning Department at the Glynneath Council? Do you trust the Glynneath Councillors Del Morgan and Simon Knoyle? If the answer is no to any of these questions, then you should be concerned about the safety of yourself and your family if you live in Glynneath. Because all these organisations and people have worked together to avoid the correct safety precautions on a toxic waste dump in your area.
On the baby seesaw with my bike. And I also have my helmet on.
Life is precious. Protect it.
I was married to Alwyn Rees Phillips for 50 years. Lost the love of my life.
Tevin passed away on the 30th of December 2020 and she died of PSP, progressive supranuclear palsy. She got taken from us with this illness.
Will Edity battle commence? And having just been reappointed to the Welsh International Referees Panel with Director.
Hello, I'm Clive Norling, former international referee, and I've got a message to Max Boyce. Vote for die.